Hi everyone and welcome back to another episode of Sideboard Files here on HEDRON.TV. Manuel, your host as usual, this time joined once again by Aleks Dakic. Welcome back.
It's great to be back here, this time with a small cold, but otherwise I'm doing great.
Alright, excellent. Very glad to hear it, and I'm also happy you're back because we can talk again about Modern and about TitanShift.
About time.
Yeah, it was about time, absolutely. So we can have a look at your latest additions to the Cyber configuration and also discuss a few matchups, because we do have a few. So, Affinity, Burn, Dredge, Blue-White Control, quite some stuff in there to discuss. And as usual, we can have first a look at your main deck configuration. I see a few changes there. So, yeah, that's exactly what I'd like to talk about, to discuss. Changes in flexi slots. We assume that everyone who's watching this video knows about TitanShift, what it does, what the game plan is, and for those who are not familiar with the deck for any reason, I would recommend to watch the previous episode that we did, the first one about TitanShift, in which we explain exactly that. All the information about the basics of TitanShift. But in this one, for the purpose of this video, we just go for the flexi slots and the changes. So what's going on in there in this particular list that you have right now?
So as you can see, we are still on the Hour of Promise version with this one. Because I think, in my opinion, Hour of Promise is still the best TitanShift version right now, because the card adds so much consistency, so much explosiveness to this kind of deck. And that makes you want to go even more proactive with that. So we got a few changes there, not many, since the last time, but we moved the more interactive spells, in this case Lightning Bolt, to the sideboard actually, to have some more room for the proactive cards. For example, Moonvolt Ascent Moss. And we still have some interactive cards, Relic of Progenitors and Sweatring Suns. Moonvolt Ascent Moss is somehow also interactive with our opponent. Not in a way of killing creatures, but in form of setting our opponent's turn back or something, giving ourselves enough time to actually win the game or clear off the board or something like that.
Okay, so you want to go for a very proactive strategy here. This build is like heavily focused on assembling the combo as fast as you can. With Moonvolt Ascent Moss, you can actually get an advantage and also slow down your opponent. And yeah, my question is why? Why going for this kind of version rather than having another version with the Lightning Bolt's main deck, for instance? What's the reason behind your choice?
In my opinion, right now, the Lightning Bolts do something, but not enough in this kind of meta. What we want to do is trigger the Valakuts as fast as possible to either kill our opponent or swipe the board. And also the Moonvolt Ascent Moss add a big percentage for the mirror match, because TitanShift has been very popular lately. And so that's why I'm expecting more these kind of matchups than, for example, Collected Company. I mean, we still have the interactive cards in the sideboard, so we can always switch up after game one if it doesn't go our way, and then we should be fine.
Okay, so this is really meta dependent. You expect a lot of mirror.
Yes.
You expect to play the mirror quite often in a tournament, in an event, or something like that.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, so it's tuned for the mirror, we could say, more or less, but
More or
also
less.
good. But also good for other kind of combo decks.
Definitely. I mean, Moonvolt Ascent Moss adds, helps with the game plan. So as I said, it helps us buy ourselves some 1 or 2 turns time, enough to either clear the board or win the game on a spot. So I think Moonvolt Ascent Moss is not only good against the mirror matchup, but also solid against other matchups as well, because it just destroys a land of your opponent and ramps yourself up. So that's helping your main game plan, coming forward.
Sure. Okay, so can you make an example of those matchups in which you get an edge with this particular configuration, based on your experience and your testing sessions?
I would say combo decks in general. For example, a good example is Ad Nauseam, or especially just decks when they need a specific amount of mana to combo, and you cut them off by one land or 2 lands maybe, and that just gives you enough time to win the game. For example, Storm, when they're stuck on 2 lands, for example, and need some more cards to combo off a Grape Shot with Baral or something, and you just remove that 1 land, because Moonvolt Ascent Moss costs only 4 mana, so it's castable turn 3. So that's very realistic to cut them off 1 mana soon enough, fast enough, for them to kind of stumble and give yourself enough time to win the game.
Okay,
to turn page, I guess.
That's the kind of meta you expect, with a high presence of combo decks.
Yes.
And this kind of build works pretty well against combo decks. Not just the mirror, but combo decks in general.
Yeah, and also it's pretty good against Tron. I mean, the Tron matchup is already very good for us, but this one adds just even more percentage to this kind of matchup. So it draws a Tron, green white Tron, green black Tron, any Tron deck basically.
What about the second flex slot that you mentioned before, the Relic of Progenitors? Why is there?
Relic of Progenitors, I kind of like them in the main board right now. They can cycle themselves if you actually don't need them. And also, it's fairly good against a few matchups. For example, Living End or Death Shadow, which is still the most popular deck right now in the meta, in the modern. So that's pretty good against that, against the Delft threats. And yeah, as I said, just a solid card. You can argue if you want to rather play it in the sideboard or the main board. I think that's up to you to decide. But right now, I think the Relic Progenitors are very, very good on the main board right now.
But your personal choice is having a couple main deck.
Yeah, exactly.
Because in the meta you're going to play, and you expect this to be fairly useful in a high percentage of matchups.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, very good. Anything else we should add?
Right now, there's nothing else.
Okay, very good. So we can just start talking about the sideboard. So here we go. We have 3 copies of Lightning Bolt, 2 Beasts Within, 2 Anger of the Gods, 1 Engineered Explosive, 2 Obstinate Baloth, 2 Witchbane Orb, 1 Gravedivex Cage, 1 Tireless Tracker, and 1 Reclamation Sage. Very good. So, few familiar faces in there. The cards that we know already. We discussed in the previous episode. So yeah, again, if you didn't see that one, if you didn't watch that one, please do it. You will get all the information you need. But here we will concentrate on new choices. But first, I would like to know, generally speaking, about the sideboard. How did you come up with this particular configuration? Is it helping you for the bad matchups? Is it like sideboard that tries to cover a wide field? What kind of sideboard is this?
So you were right. So it tries to cover it tries to cover like the wide field in modern, but it also tries to better the matchups, the bad matchups we are having against the other combo decks such as Ad Nauseam and Storm, with the card such as Witchbane Orb, as we can see here, the newest edition in this one.
Okay, so the latest edition just comes exactly for that purpose. You want to have an edge on the bad matchups.
Exactly. But otherwise, the sideboard is designed for the variety of modern, not really for one specific matchup or something.
Okay, very good. So let's talk about Witchbane Orb. I mean, what does it do in there? Why do you want this card?
So it basically saves us from from direct damage in any form, from combo of our opponents, from burn damage, from discard effects. So it's like it turns the bad matchups into actually really good matchups.
Okay.
Into very much winnable matchups. So I think I really like this card. It's kind of a new addition. I saw it in HGP Birmingham, where I think all the TitanShift top 32 TitanShift contenders played exactly two Witchbane Orbs in the sideboard. It was very interesting, I have to say. Yeah, and there's also this discussion going around, should I rather play Leyline of Sanctity in the sideboard or Witchbane Orb? So I've seen a few lists running a Leyline instead of Witchbane Orb. I can see why. I mean, I think everybody, as with the Relic of Progenitors, everybody has to decide it for themselves, which rather to play. And both have their pros and cons. So, for example, Witchbane Orb has its pro that it's castable every time. It's colorless, so you don't need a specific mana for it. But it comes as early down as on turn 3. That's the earliest turn you can cast it, and which is most of the times enough against certain decks. The con is that's what the con is. The pro about Leyline is that it comes down immediately. You can slime it as soon as you have it in the starting hand. You can slime it down on the battlefield, and it's already like the matchup is already won from this point. Well, sometimes, most of the times it's already won. But the con is we are still on red-green only. We're not a Naya version, so it's kind of harder to cast it. if you draw it later. I mean, it's still castable because you have a Prismatic Omen. So because that turns all your lands into basically every color. But yeah, that's the thing that scares me a bit from of Leyline of Sanctity. I've been running the idea of playing, if I play Leyline of Sanctity, to play a full playset in the sideboard to ensure, to guarantee we have one in the starting hand.
So you really never have like 100% percentage you will have it, but you maximize your chances of having Leyline in your starting hand and being able to put it on the battlefield at the very beginning of the game.
Because just having 2 copies is the chance is really low to have one in the starting hand. And with Leyline, you tend to mulligan more aggressively. So that's what I also don't really like about Leyline of Sanctity. But yeah, both the cards have their pros and cons, so everybody has to decide it for themselves. It's a matter of personal taste, I guess. But right now, I'd rather have 2 copies of Witchbane Orbs. Kind of gives us 2 more sideboard slots, I guess. So I have to think about the other version sooner or later, definitely. I think it's worth exploring.
Sure. I guess
right now, I'm going for the Witchbane Orbs, definitely.
Sure. No, I like the way you just illustrated the whole thing and the difference between the 2 cards. Because I like this fact, okay, what kind of meta am I facing? Do I need protection? Do I need hexproof, let's say?
Exactly.
As of turn 1, or can I afford to have hexproof as of turn 3, but be able to cast the card whenever I need it? I don't have to mulligan aggressively, and I can just, let's say, relax a bit and keep hands that generally are good hands, but don't have the Witchbane Orb or Leyline of Sanctity in case you run that one. Because, as you said, you have to mulligan really aggressively when you have Leyline. You really want it. Otherwise, it's really hard to cast. So I like, the factor is all there. How fast do you want to have this kind of protection? Do you want to have it on turn 1, or do you want to have it as of turn 3? And then, from that respect, you make your choice. And probably, if you can wait a bit, at the end of the day, this one is better because, as we said, you can cast it, it's colorless, and you don't have that kind of, say, situational, let's say, variable that could actually somehow become an obstacle and hinder your game. Exactly, this one, you just can cast it. You have not a problem with that. Right, very good. So, what else do we have here? I mean, a lot of cards that we know already, but some cards, you want to talk about something in particular?
Yeah, we have kind of 3 segments in this particular sideboard.
Oh, very good. Let's organize it like that. Fantastic.
Right.
Okay.
So we have the more interactive spells. We board in against the creature-based decks, the creature-based combo decks, or just generally aggressive decks with creatures.
So we're talking about the upper row here.
Exactly.
Okay,
the upper
very
row
good.
with the addition of engineered explosives.
Okay.
Then we have the more protective spells, disruptive spells, which can kind of hold back our opponent from winning or just completely disrupt them, with cards like Witchbane Orb, Obstinate Baloth, and Grafdigger's Cage. And we have those 2, well, very unique cards, which fill in their unique role. For example, Reclamation Stage, we board in against all the enchantments, artifact cards. And Titus Record is just a win condition on its own. If it gets unanswered, it gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah, as we said in the previous videos, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to kill it straight away, otherwise it's going to kill you.
Definitely, yeah, exactly.
Very good. Okay, well, let's go back to the upper road here. Lightning Bolt, a card that usually has been played in main deck for quite some time. Now move to the sideboard. You want to have a main deck that is like more focused on the combo and try to combo as fast as you can.
Yes.
But you need this kind of interactive spells. So for Lightning Bolt and also for Beast Within, can you make some example on when you side those in? What kind of games? I guess in very, very aggro decks, or maybe decks that have key creatures that you want to remove as fast as you can.
I think the best example is, which sums it up perfectly, is Absent Company.
Okay. That kind of deck.
Yeah, you have to, especially those decks, you just have to have interaction going on to protect yourself from losing, or just, for example, Absent Company, they have creature, it's a creature-based deck, but it's also creature-based combo deck, so if they have the Druid out, you gotta be scared to lose the next turn.
Sure.
That's why you need this kind of protection. And that's why I went for the Beast Within, again, instead of Nature's Claim. So as you can see, we don't have any Ancient Grudges or Nature's Claim.
Oh yeah, you're
in the
right.
sideboard.
You're right.
So instead I'm playing Beast Within because this card can basically remove everything. And the free body, the card of this card, our opponent gets a free body, but we don't care about this one. It just is easy target for Valkyrie triggers or for Lightning Bolt. So we don't care about this. It's very irrelevant. But yeah, Beast Withins just deal with everything, basically everything our opponent does. Shamans, artifacts, even lands, and creatures. So that's why I boarded against pretty much almost every matchup.
Almost every matchup.
So good, yeah. It's so good right now.
So it's also an answer to the sideboard answers from your opponents.
Exactly,
most of the time, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you need this kind of removal that has like no limitation.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say the side effect, it's not really a side effect.
Yeah.
The 3/3, you just don't care. It's
Yes.
one Valakut trigger and goes. Very good. So all the other cards, I think, are pretty well known.
Yeah.
So I would, if you don't have anything else to add, I would just start talking about the specific matchups that we have for today.
Sure.
What do you
let's
say?
Yeah,
Right.
I would say let's move to the sideboard.
Okay,
matchups.
let's move for the matchups then. And I would like to start with Affinity.
Mm-hmm.
Solid deck, always there. As long as Modern exists, Affinity will exist, I believe.
Yeah.
So what are your objectives in Game 2?
So most times our objectives are, our strategy is to win the race. Most of the matchups are pretty much just the race. But in this one, we have to also react to the threats our opponent puts on a battlefield. So it's a race. It's very much a race. And also we just need to have interaction in this matchup to remove their Aqua Ravagers, to remove their Inkmoth Nexus. Basically, every creature can turn into 12-2 or something. So that's we're just trying to deal with their threats and race as fast as possible.
Okay, excellent. Very, very clear. So let's go for the sideboard plans there. Really in-depth. So difference between on the play and on the draw?
Actually, yes.
Okay, so I will start with the scenario in which you are on the draw because you won Game 1.
Perfectly.
So what do you side out and what do you side in?
We are siding out 2 copies of Monvuli Acid Moss, 2 copies of Relic Progenitus, 2 copies of Scapeshift, 1 copy of Farseek, 1 copy of Our Promise, and 1 copy of the Wood Elves.
All right, so why are these cards going out?
So these cards are kind of the more slower cards in this deck. So what we are trying to do is board out the slower cards in this matchup to bring in more interactive spells in there. Basically that.
Okay, so that's the exchange. So for converted mana cost, these kind of cards go out. You get in instead the interactive spells.
Yeah, the Wood Elves, for example, they're not gonna block much in this matchup because most of the creatures Affinity has are flyers. So
yes. So
just gonna sit there and watch the meteors coming down.
Okay, very good, very good. So what comes in?
3 copies of Lightning Bolt, 2 copies of Anger of the Gods, 2 Beast Withins, 1 Engineered Explosives, and 1 Reclamation Sage.
Okay. Okay, so to deal with Artifact Enchantments. Okay, the role of these cards that you're boarding in, what do they do?
So basically they interact with our opponent, with the creatures they have on the board. Lightning Bolts, kill off stuff, Anger, kills off stuff, Beast Withins, can target the Inkmoth Nexus as well.
Oh, that's very good.
When they're not active, when they're not active. So that's a big pro in this one. Engineered Explosives is the same, deals with their board, and the Reclamation Sage. Yeah, a good single target removal for their artifacts, basically. So
yeah, sure. And you have Anger of the Gods in form of Sweeper.
Exactly, yeah.
We have Engineered Explosives as well.
So we have 1 Swaggering Suns on the main board, and we add 2 another, like, wrath effects. And yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Right, very good. So let's assume now that you are on the plane because you lost Game 1.
Oh.
Can happen sometimes.
Of
and
course.
Anyway, we have to cover all possibilities. So in this case, what do you sideboard out and what do you sideboard in?
So the only difference on the play is that we, instead of boarding out 1 copy of Farseek, we are boarding out 1 copy of Explore. Because the thing is, when we are on the play, we would like to cast the Farseek on the play. Because on the draw, when we have the Explore, we have 1 more card in our hand. Because we keep the 7, and we are on draw, so we get one additional card. So we have a higher chance to hit another land with the Explorer.
Okay. Okay. So that's the only difference.
Exactly, yes.
Right. And what you board in, as we can see, is exactly the same.
Exactly
No
the
changes.
same. No changes.
All the stuff that kills other stuff and tries to control the board, essentially.
Yes.
So that you manage to survive and then to combo off and win the match.
Nailed it there.
Right, very good. I think we can then start talking about the next matchup. Burn. Another deck that is going to be not so easy to deal with because they can be pretty fast.
Oh, yeah.
Again, what are your objectives in game 2?
It's also a race, but this time, instead of dealing with their threats, we kind of have to save ourselves. Just save ourselves from the massive burn damage we have to deal with every turn.
Okay, so it's a relentless assault and you have to survive.
Exactly,
contain
yes.
the menace, contain the threat.
Yeah, exactly, yes. It's a numbers matchup. It's not that good for us, so it's often decided by who's starting.
Okay, so there is a luck factor there.
Yeah,
yes, we said,
that's also a very good reason, very big reason why I'm playing the Witchbane Orbs as kind of protection against this deck.
Sure. Okay, same plan on the play and on the draw, I would say.
Yes, this time, yes.
All right, very good. So what do you side out and what do you side in?
So we side out 2 copies of Manuel Acid Moss again, 2 copies of Relic Progenitus, 2 copies of Scapeshift, and 1 copy of Hour of Promise. So, same here. We are boarding out the slower cards to get in more cards to kind of protect ourselves, to kind of deal with their strategy, I guess.
So you can afford actually boarding out winning conditions.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, because that's an interesting choice. I mean, I think that some people would like, oh, I'm a little bit scared of actually boarding out one of my key cards of the combo.
Yes,
but
exactly.
you think it's okay to do so.
Yeah, sometimes the TitanShift players are too scared to board out their ramp spells or their combo pieces, escape shifts, win conditions. But I think you can board out a few of the ramp spells or a few of the win conditions to bring in more spells to kind of save yourself. Just give yourself enough time to then come off. You don't want to have too many win conditions on your hand in these matchups. You want to have the protective spells, the interaction.
Okay, you want to have the tools to deal with the first 3 or 4 turns of the game, and you can draw your win conditions a little bit later.
Yes.
Because you need to survive first, and then you need to apply your strategy.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. Makes perfect sense. Very good. So what comes in?
3 copies of Lightning Bolt, 2 copies of Witchbane Orb, and 2 copies of Obsidian Baloth. So we have the bolts because they still have creatures, Goblin Guides, Monastery Swift Spears, Idol of Great Revel. So there's kind of a small insurance to deal with these threats. And of course the Witchbane Orbs, self-explanatory. If that hits down the battlefield, we are in a better position, definitely.
Sure.
And the Ballot's just general, a lifesaver, gains us 4 life, which can be enough for us to win on the next turn, because that's most of the times the case that we lose just by turn. That can be frustrating.
yeah, I can understand the frustration there.
Exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much our cycle plan against this deck.
All right, very good. So we can directly go for the next matchup. Dredge. Another important presence in the modern meta game.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So what are your objectives in game 2 when you're facing Dredge?
Who can guess? Or also a race. But this time, this is a fairly good matchup, so we do not have to be as fast as possible, I would say. We can take our time a bit. We have a few disruptive spells in our sideboard, which help us against this kind of matchup. So we are faster than they are most of the times, and we have a variety of disruptive spells, which help us against their strategy.
Okay, so the objective is somehow try to prevent them from executing their plan.
Yeah, we can do it fairly good against this matchup. So we are boarding out 2 copies of Manuel C once again. This is a card we tend to board out. It's a good sideboard out card. And 1 copy of Farseek, 1 copy of Scapeshift, and 1 copy of Sweltering Suns. Well, Sweltering Suns is a board clear, but it doesn't have the exile effect like Anger of the Gods does, so it doesn't do much in this matchup. And the same here, Scape Shift and Acid Moss. Slow cards, and I mean, they help with our strategy, but we want to bring in the more disruptive cards in there. So I think Acid Moss and Scape Shift are the best option to board out. I mean, we're boarding out just one copy of Scape Shift. It's still a very good card in this matchup because we are much faster than they are. So, yeah. And what we're bringing in are 2 copies of Anger of the Gods, 2 copies of Obstinate Baloth, and 1 copy of Grabdigger's Cage. So now, what I really like about the Obstinate Baloths in this matchup is Dredge decks tend to have the card Driven in Despair. It's from the Amonkhet block. Not sure which set exactly, but it's definitely from the Amonkhet block. So what it does, the Aftermath card lets us basically dump our whole hand to the graveyard, depending on how many of the creatures deal direct damage to us. So most times it's going to be our whole hand we have to dump down.
Sure, it can be devastating, absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely. And so the Obstinate Baloths are kind of an insurance to gain us maybe enough time to come back into the game, depending on what we're drawing. But yeah, Baloths are exactly for this kind of matchup. They're good blockers as well. They kind of also help us with the race in general. Well, except for the Necromoeba and the Fearful Flyers, they block every creature and are bigger than those are. So the Baloth is a solid addition in this matchup. Of course, the 2 Anger of the Gods just wipes off the board completely.
Sure, 3 damage to everybody. Exile clause. So
yes.
This is like the perfect sweep.
The
perfect sweeper. Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah. The perfect sweeper against Dredge. Yeah, absolutely.
And Graphic Cage, as soon as this hits a battlefield, they can't do anything. Sure. Unless they remove it from Nature's Claim.
Yeah, they have to answer the card. You have to find an answer. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Otherwise, they have to hardcast their cards, and that's just way too slow for them to win.
Yeah. So in that sense, you gain a lot of time. If they go for that route because they don't have an answer, then you have quite a lot of time to assemble your combo.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so I think we said it all for this matchup. We can tackle the last matchup that we have here for today. For this video, blue-white control. So once again, the objectives in Game 2.
So in Game 2, our objectives stay mainly the same. We do our own thing, TitanShift thing, ramp ourselves up, play lands, trigger Valakut, I guess.
Yeah.
But we also would like to bring in a plan B, I would say, in form of creatures, the Obstinate Baloths, the Tide Striker we're going to talk about just a few minutes. And yeah, that's like a plan B, I would say, in this matchup.
Well, you were very short, so it's going to be almost in a few seconds rather than a few minutes with the details about the creatures. But yeah, absolutely. So you want to do your main thing. You want to stick to your game plan. But in case something hinders your plan, you want to have a different option.
A backup plan,
okay. Backup plan. Okay, very good.
More threats they have to deal with.
Sure. Okay, very good. Before we go in depth with the cyber plans, same plan on the play and on the draw, or are there changes?
No changes.
No changes. Okay, very good. So off we go. What do you side out or what do you side in?
Before we move on, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Arne Logisch for his contribution in this matchup. He has been helping me out with the sideboard plans for this one, and kind of just generally with the game plan in this matchup. And he has been a few weeks ago here.
Yeah, around a month ago, I believe, more or less. Yeah. I don't remember exactly now, but end of August, I think I published the episode with him.
Exactly.
Quite a nice contribution on blue-white control. That was really cool. That was really cool.
And Arne, thank you very much. I can't wait to pour salt over your wounds again.
It's a nice one. I join the thanks, of course. So thank you, Arne. Absolutely. And yeah, it's going to come back soon.
All right. So let's move on.
With the cyber plans.
All right. So we are boarding out 2 copies of Relic Progenitors, 2 copies of Summoner's Pact, 1 copy of Sweltering Suns, and 1 copy of Wood Elves. So, why the Relic Progenitors? Well, as I said at the beginning of the video, blue-white control isn't... I mean, there are playing Snapcaster mages, 1 up to 2 maybe, but they're not abusing their graveyard as much as other decks are. And the Summoner's Pact, we don't want to give them a target for Dispel. So these are our only instant spells in the deck, even though they're kind of our win condition to get ourselves a Titan. But yeah, we want to give them as many dead cards as possible, I would say. Sweltering Suns doesn't do much in this matchup. There's nothing to really remove with that one. Except, of course, the cycling part is pretty sweet, but not in this matchup. Wood Elves, well, doesn't do much here as well. I think it's a card we can definitely board out.
Very good. So what comes in?
So what comes in are 2 copies of Beast Within's, 2 copies of Obstinate Baloth, 1 copy of Reclamation Sage, and 1 copy of the good old Tyrell's Tracker.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have to watch out for in this matchup are the Ruined Halos. This is a white enchantment, which they tend to bring in against combo decks or TitanShift decks, and they're always gonna name Valakut first, because with this card, when they name Valakut, we can't target the player with Valakut triggers. We can still wipe off the board, when dealing like snap casts, whatever they have, but can't combo them anymore. Scapeshift is dead card, and Valakut also becomes very weak in this one. So that's why we are trying to bring in a few attractive spells in form of Reclamation Sage and Beast Within to deal with these kind of things. To deal with the Leyline of Sanctity if they have one, to deal with their Ruined Halos if they have. And also because of that, we are bringing in some more creatures, some more win conditions, I would say, in case we don't have a removal for the Ruined Halo, or they have too many on the board, on the battlefield. So Obstinate Baloth and Tyrell's Tracker are kind of win conditions on their own. They can still, the Prime of the Titans, the Obstinate Baloths, the Tyrell's Tracker, they can still go through, even if we can't combo anymore. And the Valakut are still there to kind of remove any obstacles which are on the path, so we can win with the creatures this time instead of the combo.
Very good. So I think we said it all for this matchup, and also I think we reached the end of the episode. Thank you, Alex, for being here.
It was a pleasure as always. Finally back here.
Nice. A pleasure for me as well. And a big thank you to all of you who've been watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, because we surely did making it.
Oh, yes.
Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you want to follow us on Twitter and Facebook, you'll find the link in the description below. Click on Show More and you will find all the information you need. And of course, stay tuned on HEDRON.TV for more content to come. For now, it's goodbye.
Till next time.